Oh, alright, you guys know that on this channel, I usually do not do movie reviews, and it has been 8 hours looking at my clock since I've seen my first screening of Blade Runner 2049. I was lucky enough to see a press release of it, and I cannot stop thinking about this damn movie. And I feel like the only way I can get it out of my system is if I do a review on it and talk to you guys about it, because maybe you guys didn't know, but I was a huge fan of the original 1982 Blade Runner. I think that movie just really changed cinema for me, and I think it changed it for the world, really. You know, there's so many animes and comic books and even video games inspired by it. I still remember when I first saw the original Blade Runner, I was, you know, so invested in that world. And I remember playing Snatcher, Hideo Kojima's Snatcher, which is clearly based off of Blade Runner, you know, whether it's the main character and the whole world. And I don't know what it was, you know, it was just that vast world, seeing that kind of depressing and dark Los Angeles. It was a very dark future, but it was also one that you were just so invested in and you wanted more of. I think that was the real answer. It was this world where, you know, obviously these replicants existed, but in the first film you were only given so little. You know, you really only interact with 3 or 4 replicants throughout the film, and it was intimate, and I think that's why it was so great. It was this intimate film about a small cast of characters, and it left you kind of with so many questions, and that was kind of the beauty of that film. And I think that's why there were so many people, whether it was from Japan or, you know, other comic creators, that were so inspired by that film. And it really changed the way I looked at a lot of things. And I can't believe that we actually got a sequel to this movie. And going right into it, just sitting in that theater, you know, there was only 7 or 8 of us there. I was there with Johnny Millennium, also known as the Happy Console Gamer. He's a huge Blade Runner fan, but I remember just getting shivers and goosebumps right as it started, just seeing that world again. And, you know, I don't want to talk about the plot too much. There was a lot that was mysterious and kept hidden from the trailers, and I love that so much about this film. That's something that's very difficult to do in today's time, because there's so many trailers today where the plot is just absolutely given away and you already kind of know the film before you've seen it. And they did such a terrific job with keeping this one mysterious, and there's so many things that you find out right away within the first 20 minutes of the film. I want to start off with the cast here. You know, Ryan Gosling really stole the show. You know, he's become such a terrific actor, and I feel like I have such a huge relationship to this guy because I've, you know, grew up in the 90s, and he's a Canadian, and I remember just seeing him on these Canadian TV shows. The one in specific that I'm talking about is Breaker High, where he was just, you know, playing the goofball, essentially, character in his young days. I know he also did, like, Young Hercules as well, but that's what I remember him from Breaker High. And just to see him develop as an actor, whether it be, you know, The Notebook, I think was where most of the girls knew about him, but, you know, Drive and La La Land was terrific. He's had so many great films now, but just to see him play a role like this now was just, he absolutely nailed it. I don't want to say too much about the character, but just such an interesting, you know, you care for him. You know, I know I'm a loss for words, but the one thing that I loved about this movie, you know, don't want to compare it to the first one because the first one's a masterpiece, but I felt like I cared for the characters in this film a lot more than I did from the first movie. And I don't know what it is. It's just the whole kind of cast. I just felt more emotion towards people. There were so many instances when watching this movie where I just wanted to give a hug to some of these characters. As lame as that sounds, you really, really kind of care for these people more than I've ever imagined I would in a Blade Runner film. And obviously Harrison Ford is in this movie, and he does a terrific job playing Deckard again. And I don't know if this is a bad thing to say, but, you know, I am so appreciative of seeing Harrison Ford on the big screen whenever I do. I kind of get shivers every time I do see him on the big screen, because I know that this is amongst the last couple of years, if not the last 5 to 10 years, being hopeful that we're going to really continue to see him on the big screen. He's just such an actor with such a legacy, and just to see him kind of reprise these roles 35 years later is just, it's jaw-dropping. It's absolutely, it gets me emotional just thinking about it. But man, I think the star of this movie is the cinematography. You know, I'm a big kind of advocate for minimal use of CGI, and Denis Villeneuve and his team just did it terrifically. So many beautiful scenes. CGI was used so sparingly. So many practical sets were in the mix. And you know, things like even the spinners, you know, seeing them fly around the city in these beautiful shots, and whenever you saw the cockpit view, you know, you knew that they really built physical spinners, and you know, they're the ships in the Blade Runner series, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. But that was just so great to see. It was this beautiful kind of mesh, you know, because my issue with CGI is because I just don't think it ages very well. You know, it really shows the age of a film a lot more. There's a lot of movies from the 80s and 90s that look so much better than things that you'd see in the mid 2000s. Even a film like Avatar, I know it's great for some people, but that movie just doesn't look very good to me anymore. But man, I absolutely loved some of the atmosphere and some of the weather and some of the areas you get to see, you know. I'm not gonna spoil much. I know I'm saying that a lot because I really don't want to ruin this film for you guys, but you see so many more areas. There's still that mystery. There's still a lot of questions that you have and you wish you would kind of know, but the film, it's its own piece, and I think that's what I loved most about it. You know, it doesn't have the Force Awakens effect, where I loved Force Awakens so much, but people's biggest problem with that film was the fact that it was trying to be too much like A New Hope, and it had a lot of the same kind of beats throughout the film. But Blade Runner 2049 was its own beast. The original film will forever be a masterpiece in my eyes, but this one really kind of expanded on the universe in such a great and delightful way, and I don't think anyone would have done it better than Denis Villeneuve. I will say, before you go into this film, there are 3 shorts that came out. There is a short on Dave Bautista's character, a little bit more about Jared Leto's character, and there is an anime from the director of Cowboy Bebop. And out of those 3, I mean, watch all 3 if you can, but out of those 3, watch Blackout 2022, because I feel like the events of the Blackout, which happened right after the first film, are quite important for this movie, and it'll kind of give you a little bit more an idea of some of the drastic events that took place after the first film, which obviously have a really big part in this movie, and it kind of puts things into perspective how things have changed 30 years later, which this movie takes place 30 years later. But man, I need to see this film again, and I just wanted to get it off my chest. If you guys are even slightly interested in watching Blade Runner 2049, please do. I don't know if you'll like it as much as me, but in my opinion, I absolutely adored the film, and it was a new direction that I didn't think I would like as much as I did. And yeah, give it a look. I'm not gonna give it a review or anything like that, but I hope that you guys like the movie half as much as I did. I'll see you guys in the next one.